like what I was shooting for was to write an album that I thought would be a good thing to show something otherworldly, what this world is, like what this world feels like, what it feels like today to be in this world.
Microphone check, 1 2. What is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service.
Here we are again at the end of a rainbow.
How I describe my taste in music would be such that I don't care too much about what emotion is being conveyed. I just care that there is an emotion being shared to begin with. Whether it be portrayals of depression, bliss, and everything in between, I want my music to make me feel something. And I'm usually partial to more intense displays of such emotion because I'm a dramatic, emotional guy, what can I say? And that's why the music of today's guests, Sunmundi and Sasco, really speaks to me. Because what they created on their latest album, Contacting, is a wondrous achievement in putting true heartfelt passion on display, both in its rich raps from musing on spirituality and connection in the digital age, and the spellbinding production that is equally expressive and grandiose in scope. The young and talented New York-based duo joined the show to discuss how their relationship formed, their natural creative chemistry, and the artistic approach behind their incredible new collaborative album. I was pleased also to co-host this conversation with friend of the show, accomplished journalist with pieces in Pitchfork, The Guardian, Bandcamp, and more, Dash Lewis. So listen on to hear more about how one of 2025's essential records were created and why you need to have Sunmundi and Sasco firmly on your listening radar from here on out. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth artist interviews, album reviews, and general rap commentary on the best that the underground rap scene has to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Sunmundi, Sasco, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great, man. Thanks for
Yeah,
having us.
doing well. Glad to
Yeah.
be here.
Very happy to have you on. I feel like we've had a few interactions as of late, most notably last week. I got the pleasure to see you both perform at the Free Music Empire Showcase. Shout out to Dano, shout out to Kay. Like, it was such a cool experience. Like, a small venue that was packed, and I feel like everybody there was just ahead. And I imagine from you guys, did you guys enjoy it? Did you enjoy that experience?
Oh yeah. That's gonna
Yeah.
be a memorable show. There's a lot of shows we play that are just like good and like you remember like all the bad shows, a lot of good memories of terrible shows. A lot of the good ones kind of get lost to time, but like really great ones like last week, I think will be pretty memorable.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, met a lot of really cool people. Like a lot of people kind of I knew online and shit, and just like a lot of like legends. Like it was a really fun show. It was tight.
Yeah. For those unaware, that show had August Fanon as well, Black Chai, Shamar, Sketch 185, Nappy Nina, Sudoku,
Hmm.
just fucking ridiculous. Really great energy there. Oh yeah, Masai even came in and did a verse. Like,
Miles Cook too.
I actually blew that lot. That I lost my shit because I knew of all the special guests, not that one though. I
Mhm.
was just I love her.
Caltrops
Um,
is there.
yeah, Caltrops there. There was Jade. There's a lot of like journalist homies there too. That was like really cool.
Hmm.
Everybody kind of made the time. It was a good experience. You debuted this record in the RMPP patron Discord. That was amazing. Like, I know I obviously, when we do those, like, I'm picking music and artists that I fuck with, that I know people will fuck with, but that one, people really liked that album. Like, that was one of the more like crazy reactions to like every song. They're like, "Yo, fuck you, Sasco, this beat's crazy," or they're like quoting you live. It was a good experience.
That was so fun. That was like such a dope like moment. Very cool, gratifying, nice moment filled with friends. It was really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of good insight I want to get into. Had one of my favorite moments too, where I genuinely, in earnest, was like, "Man, the girl's voice is just contacting. I like her voice. She's hot." I said she's hot. I said her voice is hot, and you're like, you're trying to steal my wife. I was like, I had
Why?
no idea that was your wife. I was just saying. I assumed you clipped it from like a fucking movie or something.
That's so
Uh,
funny. No, I was like, I need to get her voice is like so dope. So I'm like, let's get it on
I
there.
mean,
But
facts, facts.
that was so
Uh,
funny.
but more seriously, like the reception of this album outside of those few instances has been, I think, pretty tremendous. You got the Bandcamp Daily from Dylan Green, that was very glowing. How do you feel about the response so far? And actually, before I even go this, Dash, I want you to introduce yourself for those listening.
Hey, I'm Dash. I'm a writer, contributor to a bunch of different publications, including Pitchfork, Stereo Gum, Bandcamp Daily, etc. It's my fourth time on the podcast, I think. Third
Fourth and
time.
like third time doing this kind of tandem concept, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm psyched to be here. I'm psyched to talk to y'all. I really enjoy this record, and we're gonna get into it.
Yeah. And so like with that, were you expecting this kind of a response, such a strong response after completing the album? Did any of the response kind of surprise you even, or did you know like, oh, this is gonna drive people crazy?
For me personally, yeah, it's always like, kind of surprising when people who aren't your friends, enjoy it, like, or your like mutual, collaborators or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. It's been like, it's always like shocking, like just seeing how far the album like has gone. Yeah, it's never not going to surprise me that like people, like a good amount of people like dig my music. That's me speaking personally. So yeah, it's been great, man. It's been really good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I always come from an expectation of like there will be no response, no one's gonna hear this. Like you can't really set yourself up to really anticipate that anything's going to happen with it. So like I've just been super grateful, like blown away by it. Like taking trips to the post office to send stuff to like overseas, different continents, like multiple times. Uh Names I don't recognize or anything. It's pretty wild from my perspective.
Mm.
And like I know Dash, something that we were definitely curious about is like the connection and like your collaborative relationships.
Yeah, so I know that Sunmundi, you're on the hottest year on record, Sasko's record from last year. Um, but how did the two of you initially connect?
I think we met in a Discord server, maybe like an Arm
Oh,
and
that's a
Hammer.
name. No, it
Oh,
wasn't.
never, no, it just got named.
Yeah.
That was it. I think, yeah, I think we met, how people just like, post their music in these hip hop servers or whatever. And then we just kind of like DM'd each other. Sasco started sending beats. I think maybe you were familiar with some of my stuff. I was kind of vaguely
I heard
familiar.
it was like right when you posted, which is not like publicly out anymore, but this track called Swan Song produced by Messiah Music. I'm
Mm.
pretty sure as soon as I heard that, I was just like, I need to get beats to this guy and we need to work. So I was probably just annoying you about it right off the bat with that.
Definitely not annoying. I think that was around maybe 2021.
Right.
I could be wrong. When we first like kind of just linked and I think the first record I heard from Sasco was Every Day They Change Their Number. And I was like, this dude is like built so different. It was very unique production for me. And then yeah, we released a couple singles here and there, some like Lucy's. I think our first track was called Me and My Glitch. Was that the first one we did?
The Man of the Fly was first.
The Man and the Fly, yeah. So we got like we got a couple, little Lucy's that we dropped, and then I think after Lived and Born, we kind of started linking on this album like more seriously, right? We kind of
Well, after you finished, I think it was after you finished Lived and Born, but like before that
maybe it was
came out.
before it dropped, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we've been like homies for a minute, like it's a couple of years now.
Had y'all been tossing around the idea of working together at some point, or was there a moment where you were like, okay, we need to turn whatever we have here into a full length? Like, there's obviously some chemistry, so let's see what we can do in a longer format.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think I was kind of collecting, I had like the title for contacting, and I had like the aesthetic in mind, the kind of like glitchy electronic aesthetic. And I was collecting beats and Sasco was one of the producers who was sending beats, and all of Sasco's beats were just like, I don't know, they were just hitting like the correct, they were just resonating so right with me. So I was just like, you know what, let's just link one on one, and he was down, and then we just dialed in for 2 years. A pretty arduous like amount of time making this album. So yeah, we've become pretty acclimated, I think, at this point to each other's like style of making music. So yeah, I think that's kind of how that started.
What was the first thing that y'all recorded for the project?
think it was airdrop, right?
It was definitely airdrop. I sent you the draft to airdrop the night before the first pop up that we had both attended. I think it was 2023.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it turned out that was one of the craziest songs that we made. Like,
Yeah, I
um,
think that is like top three on the album, top two.
it's a great song. I mean, the
There's
beat
a
is
lot of
just
extra work then.
yeah. So I think that was kind of the first track we made. I don't know how much I remember after that. I think there was a big span where it was maybe like 1 or 2 months where I just like kind of like dumped a bunch of demos,
Right. At
right?
least like 10 to 12 of them were all within a month or two,
Hmm.
which was crazy because like the year or two before that, I've been sending you stuff. You're like, I might write one song in the next 2 months. And like, no offense if it's not over one of the beats you sent, to just like getting all those at once was
Hmm.
crazy.
Yeah, that was we kind of built the core of the album in I guess in a short span, you could say, and then the second half kind of was a little bit more of a drawn out and deliberate process.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What kind of conversations were you having about the direction of it? I mean, like, I'm assuming there were maybe conversations before airdrop and after. So I wonder, like, what you were talking about in terms of the concept of the record before you recorded airdrop and how that maybe sort of opened things up for how the rest of it unfolded.
Good question. I'm trying to rack my brain. I'm trying to figure that out.
I don't know how much like discussion we really needed like about thematic stuff on this record. A lot of discussion about arranging and musical stuff, but I think I mean we have to credit a lot of the thematic direction of this to Sunmundi, and I think hearing what he was saying about it, I was kind of just like, bet, let's go, and then trying to follow up on that.
Musically is what maybe we can focus on first here, because like I find that fascinating, Samundi, that you're saying that you already had that like glitchy, whatever sound in mind. And it's funny because when we listen to like the last Sasco record, there is like a very natural, like this, it's not like Sasco went and did something like he's never done before. You know what I mean? Like this is very up your alley. And I just find it interesting why that was like the direction. Like why did that kind of sound versus something else feel like it made sense?
I think it appealed to me because it was very different to the music I had dropped previously. My prior album was Lived and Born, produced by Clown Cat, which is a great album. Like really dope, like awesome produced album. And it was just a different vibe. Like I knew Sasco had this kind of bag that was exemplified on Contacting. Like I knew he had that, and it was just very different for me. It was it was a little bit more challenging, kind of like artistically challenging because it was new. Like there's a lot more percussion on this album than my prior albums, and there's a lot of like bright moments. Like forgive the like pun, but like there's a lot of like bright moments on the album, like sonically. Daz goes like, "Shut up." So yeah, it was just like kind of a fun space to be in for me artistically. Yeah, I credit my verses to like the beats. Like a lot of like that's kind of just how I make music. Like if I just try to match a beat like as well as I can. I don't really write on my own like without a beat. Like I never write without a beat. So yeah, a lot of the way the album sounds lyrically is definitely dictated by the like textures and moods of a lot of the beats, I would say.
I was telling Rohan about this. It kind of reminds me of, I use this word too much, but it reminds me of psychedelics, like being on psychedelics, where everything is bright and intense and just kind of like right up front. And there's like a kind of a spiritual heaviness to it where it feels urgent, as if these ideas like have to come out before you die or something like that.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's necessarily like about mortality. I think that plays it, correct me if I'm wrong, it plays a big part in it thematically, but it just has this kind of like big, intense, wide-eyed urgency. And I'm curious if there were reference points that the two of you discussed about what records you were listening to, what genres you were really interested in as you were going through this process.
I don't know. I mean, that really comes through in like I guess the sample choices. There was like a few groups of things I was listening to get the samples when I made these beats. A lot of like electroacoustic music. I know Dash, we've like talked about like Rob Mazurek and stuff before, a
Mhm.
lot of international anthem. I didn't sample any of that. I would like I was making a lot of that type of music myself and then sampling myself doing that. So that was like one group. And then there's like a couple other eras and locations I was really like happened to be zoning in on. Um, Partially because I used to live by this thrift store that would get like CDs. And clearly there was some person living nearby that would donate CDs that was like a jazz writer in like the late 90s. So like
Oh,
all these crazy like demo CDs that say like promotional use only, not for sale would like come in and I get them for $1. And a lot of them like were never digitized, really like stuff that just never was like preserved too well. So that was one space and time I was sampling. I'll leave the other one, I guess, out because this is like one or two that might be a little obvious if you know that type of music well. But
fair.
yeah, that was really what I was listening to. I don't think we didn't really have like a mood board kind of thing
Mhm.
going for this. I remember I did for like Hottest Year on Record, there was a lot of like, I was thinking about Shook World, I was thinking about
Mm.
Freddie Hubbard, Sing Me a Song of Song Me, things like
Oh,
that. But for this, we didn't really, I don't know, that didn't seem necessary. I think we both kind of for big picture stuff, we're really just on the same page or like trusting in each other that we were like gonna come together on that.
so y'all just have kind of a shared intuition that you followed for this.
I would say so. Yeah, we definitely didn't. I just kind of like let Sasco do his thing. Like, I
Mhm.
don't know shit about producing or sampling, and I couldn't even be like, oh, sample stuff from XYZ region, whatever. But I think as we created more songs, like we were just kind of building on the collection of songs that we had. And with Airdrop, I think Airdrop was a good first song to make in that regard because it kind of does fit the whole you can kind of like capture the scope of the album with a song like that. For like the first half is kind of more like dark, like sort of, I don't know, like kind of brooding, I don't know, and then the second half is like a light release, and I feel like there's a lot of that like kind of contradiction in a lot of these sounds on the album. But I think for me what inspired, like what I was shooting for was something, I mean, like relating to the title, I wanted to write an album that I thought would be a good thing to show something otherworldly, what this world is, like what this world feels like, what it feels like today to be in this world. And there's like certain lines that, kind of reference that type of thing. Like there's a line on Sundial Timex about um, showing my album to the aliens, like giving them the early album link or whatever. So these are just kind of things that I had in my like mind. Like I guess I could probably create an interesting mood board of like shit that I had in my mind. I was trying to read some books that would inform this album. Like I was reading stuff by Neil Postman, who wrote about. He was like a media scholar who wrote about he wrote this book, "Amusing Ourselves to Death," which was kind of about like how modern technology is going to like kind of be the death of us in a way. Like, and he's sampled on "Where Are You." I think he's the kind of vocal sample on that
Mhm.
track. So yeah, that's a very long-winded answer. Apologies for that, but
No, that's great.
yeah, that's.
And also, I mean, just based on what you just said, I want to clarify though, like we didn't have a mood board thing. Like that's not to say like this wasn't intentional and we just kind of threw something together. Like a lot of what ended up happening in the verses was like stuff I've been thinking about as long as I've been making music and making albums. And like someone you just happened to be able to communicate those things very clearly in a way that like I hadn't, I guess, been able to, especially just doing instrumental music. So like, it just made sense to, and that was just like, just to emphasize, we didn't really need thematic discussions too much on that. As far as that goes, it felt like we were on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're just speaking to it being like you guys are naturally on the same page, so you don't really need to talk necessarily deliberately and calculate something because you're just already, simpatico. Pardon the interruption, but if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe, like the video, and hit the bell as well. And if you're checking this out on podcast platforms, please follow the show, leave a rating, leave a review if possible. This will help the algorithm do its thing and get more people tapped in. Thank you so much. Now back to the show. Sunmundi, you mentioned something that was funny because you said that how Sasco produces and like how this album sounds is very different than like Lived and Born and Midnight Oil. And like while that's true, I actually feel there's like a spiritual or a certain energy that is, I feel, consistent through a lot of your music where it just lends itself to being very aligned to soundtracking someone speaking about like spirituality and speaking about connection, which again is something I think you like lock in on a lot specifically on this record. As soon as I heard this kind of music, I'm like, yeah, this makes exact sense. It's like a different flavor of like your world. And I think it works really well, especially when we think about this album lyrically. I think just as the production is, this is a very overwhelming record. Like it's enormous. And I think your raps like exude this underlying joy. There's an urgency like Dash was saying before, where it feels like you're saying something that you just have to say. Like your
Mm.
life depends on it. And you can hear this on the final track, which is very reminiscent of another closer you did on Midnight Oil, where you say like my whole life I've been like where the beat drops and you end it with like my whole life I've been contacting you.
Mm.
It's it's like an emotional intensity that I find is so visceral and is very hyper expressive. And I'm just curious, like, how does it feel as an artist recording this kind of hyper expressive music that you make? Like, how does it feel being so like vulnerable? Like, how does that feel to you?
Um, well, I use music, it's pretty cathartic to me. The process of writing it, recording is not such a maybe like romantic and cathartic process, but I think as far as like making music, making albums, this is something that I like have this feeling like I never want to stop doing it. This is my third album. And going back to what you were saying about the kind of spiritual like kinship shared between my albums, I feel like that can sort of be attributed to my whole kind of like the crux of me as a writer and as an artist. These like questions of spirituality and mortality, like you were saying, Dash, earlier. I know you were kind of on the fence about that. Like I think that's a common enough theme in my music. Um, yeah, these things are kind of always in my mind. And regarding outros, like I've said this before, like outros are for me, say, I'm just trying to like encapsulate everything that we just went through on the album in the most like grand, intense, serious way I can. Maybe one day I will make like a light, quirky outro, who knows? But like for now, like I really do love the like emotional floodgates opening kind of at the end. So I think that's just part of my identity as an artist at this point. You know what I mean? And for this album, this was the clearest like lyrical theme that I've ever had like in my music personally. Like there was a lot of reference points, regarding like technology, like its misuse, like how like love is communicated through technology, how like being watched by like our governments and by like different types of authorities affects us, and how just straight up being addicted to my phone has like fucked me up in a lot of ways. So those are all kind of things that are at play.
I love the title of Contacting and how it relates to those themes you described because I really resonated with that idea of connection in the digital age. Like it's so important, and I feel like it's when we look at most of a lot of like the societal ills, like a lot of them are like stemming from just like this, and like we say, male loneliness epidemic, which kind of gets like memed, but there's just everybody's lonely. People are lonely to an extent, or they're getting like stimulated in a way that's super unhealthy.
Mhm.
And I just really like the way that you kind of dovetail that idea with just like a overarching spiritual connection too. And yeah, I just think it's brilliant. I honestly just think it's so brilliant.
Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that.
And you were also saying about like opening the emotional floodgates. Like that's another part that's like super interesting with the way you rap is like I find that like, for some people, I can imagine that your style of rap can, for some, teeter on the edge of maybe being like too much for people. Like it could be like too emotionally animated. But personally, myself and like a lot of others, I'm sure feel, I think this dynamic in your raps is what gives it like a gravitas, like what gives it like a real personality. Like the passion is like so obvious. How conscious are you of this dynamic of like delivering these intensely passionate raps in a way that is also kind of like still digestible for the listener? Is this even something that's like crossing your mind as you create?
Yeah, listenability, like per se, is not in my mind at all when I'm writing or making music. I'll say when I'm writing, but I think my mix of like passion and I guess like the way I deliver like verses, it comes from like my influences, like Ka, Woods. I don't know. I just have a passion for writing, like which I hope is obvious. And it kind of that kind of result stems from like those influences. And yeah, it can be a lot for people. Like what you were saying earlier, like the album is a lot and it's a lot to take in. But I personally find that some of the most like impactful albums I've ever heard are like extremely long and robust and challenging. Like Shook World, like Sasco mentioned Shook World earlier. Like that's an album that's like mad long and like if you're gonna sit down and listen to that album, like you need to carve out time to like pay attention to that. Like Sifu, like Pink Sifu obviously has like really he's like known to drop a really long, like heavy ass album. So I think that kind of I kind of value that experience like as an artist. It's just like cool to make that type of experience. It's not for everybody for sure, but you know, I appreciate people who spend the time with it. It's really dope.
You talk a lot about intentionality, but I also am curious, and this can kind of go for both of you actually. But there's a lot of artists that like to talk about how they get into the booth or they like sit down at their instrument and they go into a trance state when they're creating. And I have to imagine, based on what this album sounds like, and honestly, based on what all of your output separately and together sounds like, that maybe that's the case. Maybe the two of you separately, when you get started, you just sort of like slip into some other mental state. Do you feel like you're a channel for something?
At my best, yeah. There's a lot of times I'll sit down to produce something and like someone will walk in the room and it's like 2.5 hours after the sun went down. They're like, why are you just sitting here in the dark? Like I'll just get so locked in uh and never get up, never turn a light on or like even think about anything else. Like same goes for like you said, playing an instrument, like playing drums, ideally that's where I'll be is just completely my mind just wiped clean, just not really thinking about anything, letting whatever like physical practice I've done and whatever else is happening just flow through.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same. I think when writing, that type of feeling definitely happens during writing. It kind of used to happen to me more. Like I feel like as I become a more experienced writer, I struggle more to like catch that like ineffable, like lowercase I ineffable, nothing crazy, but like you know what I'm saying? Like when you're creating something, I like when you get like lost in something, I feel like I definitely had a lot of that when I first started making music. I I think I am a little bit more like conscious now of what I'm doing, and for better and for worse. Sometimes it's nice to like let go and see what see what you make. Yeah, I don't know. That's something we strive for. That's something like I definitely aim to do. Something that feels the most natural. And I think with with playing instruments, I can imagine it's like a bit, maybe it's a bit easier to like catch that type of thing because you're not really, I don't know, you can kind of like disengage a little bit and like let your body kind of like dictate what's happening in a way.
Kind
So
of have to in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
exactly.
Whereas, like, yeah, if you're writing something or producing something, you really have to be intentional about maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You may have to be more intentional about getting into that state because the urgency isn't necessarily there. You could always close the computer, put down the notepad. At its best, that is like the process.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't really, I can't really speak exactly to like what's causing it to answer your question, really. But
Something we aim for, like either speak with the conduit or don't do it, like the line in cloud spells. Like that's what I'm trying to achieve every single time I write. Like
Yeah.
we would like that to be the case, obviously, but sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. That's just like art, I guess.
Yeah, I'm also like reminded of when it comes to this idea and kind of just like the spiritual element of this record is like I know Sunmundi, we've chatted a bit before about like Jiddu Krishnamurti
Hmm.
and like just the that whole idea of like seizing the moment, being present is like the name of the game. Like that's what it's all about. And I just find that cool as like a because I really feel that presence a lot in the way that this album sounds. And I think you guys captured that. And I think you're kind of describing it how like maybe it's not even doesn't show up all the time. It maybe is something you can't necessarily always manufacture, but like you hear it in the delivery, you hear it in the these beats, like that feeling of presence is just really there, in my opinion.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, we try. I think we try. I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So in the listening party, Sumundi, you said that this may be the last record that we hear from you for a while. So I'm curious what's driving that break, or if that's been revised, or like what's going on with that.
Yeah, I'm just like starting grad school like next week.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations.
it's appreciate it. So yeah, I just kind of need to take a break. Also, like it would just be nice to be able to catch the same like feeling as when I first started making music. Like sometimes it can feel like a bit of a chore, like personally, like the impetus to always make music,
Mm.
like defeats the purpose of like feeling the impulse to create. So yeah, just kind of taking a break. I do have like another album that I'm like sitting on, but it's nowhere near like done. But yeah, I don't know, just kind of seeing where it takes me.
So you got to live a life in order to write about it. That makes sense.
So they say that's it.
What about you, Saska? Do you have anything that we should be paying attention to or checking out, looking out for in the near future?
yeah, I'm like pretty deep into a few collab projects. Names we probably all like know. Not as in like they're famous, but like, they're in the community, friends of ours and stuff. And then I have like the concepts of the next two solo things I want to work on
Mm.
in my head. I don't know when those are gonna happen. They'll probably be like efforts like my last solo thing, which took 4 years to from like conception to release. So I don't know. I'm excited about those. It's like just something to look forward to. But yeah, within the year there'll be some collabs.
I find that
Excellent.
interesting that you're saying the solo records take a lot longer to create versus like working with a rapper and doing a collab.
I mean, for a record like the last one I did, there's a lot more moving pieces. Like 8 out of the 15 tracks had features. So there's a lot of communication with all those people. And then there's like, I don't know, I mixed that one. I don't want to mix records going forward, honestly, because this one was like such a big
Contacting
task.
bro,
But like
bro.
when you do mix with one person and their vocals for 22 tracks, you do kind of get a sense of like how to make them sound good. Whereas with a bunch of different people, um, you have to relearn that for every track. Like mixing a Sketch 185 verse versus a Miles Cook verse, like it's a whole different skill set. Um, and then just being the sole person creating like a concept and making sure that it's like done effectively um is very different than the work is like cut in half when there's two people or more um really taking control of the big picture.
And you mentioned that kind of the difficulty or the challenge of completing this record. It reminds me of just like just generally with all like the little samples and vocal snippets, all these little several beat changes. Like, how were those decisions made? Was it mainly you, Sasco, kind of just thinking this would be good, good ideas, or like Sunmundi, did you have input into like, oh, this will be a cool sample or vocal snippet to include?
It was like half and half for sure.
Oh, really?
Um, At
Yeah.
least, yeah. A lot of demos came back to me and like with random beats mashed together and vocal samples on them.
I think I chose a lot. You chose the cloud spells off the ontological strength. Those samples come to mind for the as far as like
Right.
vocal samples. I did have like a I did find like a golden YouTube page with like a lot of really good sample material that I pulled from. So, and regarding beat switches, I think Airdrop was like you sent me that beat
Well,
as
I wouldn't even consider that a beat switch. That's just the
oh
same beat
really?
with a different section at the end. Yeah, it's
Okay.
uh,
I know like Scam Central was a beat that I like that was one beat that had multiple different sections that I sacrilegiously cut and reorganized to match like my verse. So I think that was maybe one of the only instances of that. I don't know.
I really know where you did that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's true.
Yeah, I don't know, really felt half and half. I'm looking at, you know, like the intro 98 to Infinity. I kind of took what you sent me as far as like your idea for the introduction, and I kind of destroyed that like
Yeah.
you did with this original Scam Central beat.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the ethical hacking intro.
True.
Like it really, and this was the part where it wasn't really so
Seamless.
like a big picture. It was not seamless.
Yeah.
There was a lot of discussion. This is, when it gets to the small stuff,
Hmm.
really had a lot of back and forth, a lot of compromise.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Yeah.
So
That
where
was,
where things were easy as far as like the theme and the big picture, like the details, we got really in the weeds about it.
And the fact that like so I understand like the theme and the big picture was like more naturally kind of simpatico with you guys. Like when you flip it from what you guys were intending to like what you were hoping people take from this, like what was like what was the kind of statement you were hoping to make with this record? Like what were you trying to get people to understand or feel as it relates to all these themes?
uh, personally, I never really aimed to do something like that. I like to like, think that I make music like for me first, kind of rhetorically in that
Hmm.
sense. Um, I can't really say more about it. Like I don't want anything I do to be like didactic or like preachy or like holy like whatever. Like fuck, I'm not doing that. Like I'm just kind of making what speaks to me and hopefully it speaks to other people. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, I have the same thought, especially like relating to what I said earlier, just about the positive versus negative reception or just the amount of people hearing it. It's like you can't really expect anything. A lot of times I've made, instrumental music, it's hard to make anything that like really purposely communicates something. And there have been
Mm.
times where I did try to do that and I would title the track something and make it sound a certain way to really try to communicate something like that I thought was very obvious, and people would just not understand that or get the opposite thing out of it. So like again, just the expectations are not there. I communicate what I want to communicate like in the music, and if
Mm.
people get that from it, that's great. If they get something else from it, that's just as productive for them. Like that's great.
Yeah, it's funny because there's like a I've had this kind of conversation about this topic with a variety of so many people I've had on the show in one way or another, and the answers are always pretty split in half, I feel. Like I
Mm.
hear some variation of what you guys have said countless times, but then I've also heard the opposite where it's like, yeah, like I wanted people to think about XYZ or feel XYZ. It's just interesting, two different ways to do it, I guess.
It's just like I don't know, you can't control. So like why
Hmm.
get too invested in that? Because it's I don't, I also don't think this is a record where like you're really gonna someone could really possibly misinterpret what Sunmundi sang, but also Words of Woods existed. I don't know, you might want to delete that, but
Yo,
you know,
no,
it could
he's in
happen.
Toronto. He's gonna get me. He's gonna hunt me down. Oh my God.
Bro, look out behind you.
Yeah. Or he's my landlord actually. The whole time. Oh my God. Yo, honestly, like I just think this album is it's just such a success to me because like you said, that's exactly what like how I'd say it too. It's like it's so unmistakably clear in vibe, in sound, in the messages. Like I really feel something when I hear this album. I feel like overwhelmed, but in a positive way, emotionally sometimes too, and musically, just by like the sheer kind of brilliance of these instrumentals. Like it's definitely one of the best of the year as far as records go, but just like something that I think you two should feel really proud of, and I'm just really happy that you were able to talk about it on the show. It's a real honor.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, grateful to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate it as well. And I find it like the world right now is so incredibly overwhelming. It seems almost antithetical to want to listen to a record that is just as giant and, for lack of a better word, overwhelming as the rest of it is. But I find myself getting so lost in it, and it's become like kind of a balm. It feels relatable, and it feels like really speaking to the feel, like you said, Sunmundi, earlier, the feeling of what it's like to wake up and just like continue through all of this. So it's a success. It's a really, really interesting project. Really glad that y'all made it. Really glad that we got to talk to you about it.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it.
Appreciate it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to not only support the show, but join the fastest growing community of like-minded indie rap fans, go to patreon.com, search for the Rap Music Plug podcast, and become a patron. You will gain access to an exclusive patron-only Discord that me and 70 plus people engage with on the regular, as well as other patron-only benefits such as exclusive access to the iconic RMPP listening parties, album recommendations, and much more. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff, or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod, or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self-promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.